me?
I can hear you.
And I can hear you. Would the attendees please raise your hand if you can hear us? Janet, good. Brian, Lynn,
Okay, there
good,
we
good.
go.
Oh, now we can hear you.
Yep. Okay. Do you still hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Should we go ahead and get started, Joe, or did you want to wait for a little bit?
No, I think we're good to go actually.
All right. So my name is Ann Cody, and I'm the account manager at xTuple. I have worked in many different capacities at xTuple. Have been involved in implementations, professional services, and so I'm pretty familiar with the project management functionality that's available in the xTuple application. So my plan for today is I'd like to spend about 30 minutes going over the available project-related functionality in the desktop client, and then 15 minutes to just review what's available in the mobile client for those of you who haven't seen the mobile client yet or want to know what the differences are between the two clients. So Joe will be moderating, and just jump in, Joe, if there's any technical issues.
No worries.
Okay. All right. So there are two ways to get to. Oh, I should also indicate here that I am working in the Enterprise Edition 4.5 today. That's what we're demoing with, and I'm using the standard demo database that's available to our users. So it's the yellow truck demo. There's two ways to access project data in xTuple from the desktop. You can either use the desktop buttons here that you see on my screen. You can also use the drop-down menus by going to CRM, project, and it takes you to basically the same screens. So one of the things that I want to point out early that I think is a big benefit to having even a basic project management module embedded in an ERP is that one of the biggest challenges that project managers deal with is managing all the details involved in a project, not just what's going to get delivered by who, when, but also all the documentation, all the contracts, the design specs, the tasks, in some cases billing related work if you're doing service type work for customers, and having the ability to link additional project records to the project itself from the ERP is a real advantage, because I think you get an even better document management system for your project. So if we go to the list view for projects, this is real similar to all the other list view screens in the application, in that you can configure the columns on the screen. You can organize them by due date, so you can see which projects are coming up, which ones are behind based on the due date, and that you would just click on the header, the subfield header, subform header here, and then you could select which columns you want to see in the list view. So if you're managing multiple projects, usually we'll spend a lot of time in here navigating through the different projects that you've got going on and reviewing status. So I'm going to open up the Greenleaf project. And from here you can see basic project data and also a summary of the activity going on. So some of these fields are customizable, like project type. I'm going to start at the top. Some of these are not customizable because they trigger other events in the database. So like project status, you pretty much have 3 statuses available. Here's where you would monitor the overall activity, the overall project due date, completion date, who's running the project, their contact information, and then you have a subform below which details out the project activity. So here's where, when I mentioned earlier, the benefit of having a fully integrated project tool in your ERP is that you're not limited to just tracking project tasks like you would in a standard project management tool. You can also associate sales orders, invoices, work orders, and purchase orders to your project as well, so you can monitor project costs. You can actually, from this screen, create orders right here without having to leave the project screen or go into another menu elsewhere. You can set up an order, and under relationships is where the linkage is between the project and the order itself. So that's pretty handy. And there is some reporting tools that allow you to print out sort of a project revenue and expense, kind of like an income statement, so you can get an overview of where you're at financially on your project. So tasks, this is a pretty basic feature that all project management tools have. Obviously, you can assign tasks to people and statuses. You can also plan how much time you've budgeted for this task, and the project tools in xTuple are also linked to time and expense, so people can use their timesheets to track how much time they've spent on projects, specifically on a project tasks, and then as timesheets get approved, then the project gets updated so the project manager can see how much time is actually getting reported against the project itself. So that's where you would see the budgeted is what the PM is tracking to, and the actual is what the person assigned to the task is actually, how much time they're actually spending on it. And that includes expenses as well. So if there's travel expenses involved, supplies that they are expensing for the project, you can also track that via timesheets against the project itself. Okay, so the next tab is billing. So this is another level of project management, which is sort of ERP specific, in that you can actually bill out from the project for labor directly to the customer. So if you were doing a service, let's say you're an engineering company, you're providing engineering services, and you are actually billing time and materials for the project each month, then you would set up a billing rate for the task, and as the project team members are creating timesheets, once the timesheets are approved, it actually generates an invoice that you can send directly to the customer. So that's pretty slick if you're doing services. Sorry, there's some background noise here. So that's what the billing tab is related to. You can also set up alarms if you're concerned that the task is behind schedule, you want an email alert, you can use the alarms for that. Comments, if you want to track, if you need timestamped comments, sometimes different regulatory agencies require that all the project detail be tracked by and date stamped so that there's a history of everything that happened. In this case, you could just add comments to the task itself. You'll find the similar fields available on the project level as well. Characteristics are custom fields that you can create for a project or a task. So if you're tracking, an example might be what type of tools you're using on this task. You want somebody to select which tool. You could create a characteristic for that. This is another useful tool for the project manager. Like I said, we all have experience losing documents and emails, file servers, other various software applications. You can consolidate all your documentation onto the project itself at the task level or the project level. Documents like design specs, contracts. You can even attach URLs. So, excuse me, if you had links to CAD files, you could put them in here. So that's really handy as well. So you'll see a lot of similar fields available on the project level. That was the task level. This is the project level. You can track total project hours, total project expenses. If you want to use a billing rate for the whole project as a default, and that is, you can manually change the bill rate even at the on the timesheet if you need to. This is where you'd find the billing information and who the customer is that's being billed for services or labor or expenses. Notes, again, customizable characteristics. Comments, documents, again. This feature was for, this is for if you have a, I believe this is if you have a recurring event. This one I have to follow up on. I cannot remember what this particular tab was designed for. Email is if you wanted to integrate. We also have the ability in xTuple to integrate email records from your email application to project records in the database. So you can link email correspondence floating around related to this project directly into the project itself. We do have a very basic Gantt chart. It's not super fancy, but it's here. It's pretty simple. It lists the project tasks. You can configure it by week, month, quarter to see where you're at, what the sequence of events are. So that's basically an overview of a project. Now let's say you're a project, you're assigned to multiple projects and you're trying to figure out what tasks you're supposed to be doing on which project. So What you could do is you could open up there's actually a little window on the desktop called My To-Dos, and you can actually see, and these are sorted by due date, what tasks and projects that you're assigned to and what priority the tasks are in. So you know, it's kind of like it's sort of like a little workstation where you can determine what work you need to be doing first and what priority. Can't remember the word I was trying to think of for that. So anyways, that's how, as a team member, you would keep track of the work you're working on. In addition, let's say you're a member of its project and you need to record time. Time and expense is under the project box. It is also under the drop-down menu, as I showed earlier. And this, if I open up, I've created a timesheet for, actually it's last week, but there's an open timesheet here. Actually, this one's been approved. Let's create a new timesheet. And let's say it's for this week. And I want to create, I want to record some time against the Greenleaf project that we just looked at. I would select the project, the task I worked on. I worked on marketing. Again, here, this is kind of an important notion to keep track of. The person logging time against the project needs to identify whether this line item on their timesheet is for time or expenses, because it changes the nature of the line here. So you would just put in their project hour, they would record their project hours. If this were a billable time, they would select billable. The rate that you saw on the task would default into here, and you'd see the total charge back to the customer. And then once this timesheet was approved, it would automatically generate an invoice. But we're not billing for our time. We're just tracking our time to make sure we're not that we're within our project budget. You could add notes in here or whatnot. Whoops. I double clicked there. I got ahead of myself. So here you can see the timesheet. Save it. The project closes. The project manager could come in. Of course, I have the admin privileges, so I can do anything, but you can control the privileges that users have to approve or close timesheets. I can approve the timesheet, and that time that was logged against Greenleaf would show up under the actuals for task. Let's see, I think it was marketing. Under your project plan, it shows that 2 hours have been logged against this task on the Greenleaf project. Okay, so that's pretty useful information. This is a nice, so if I click on this project orders icon here, this gives you a nice overview of all the orders related to the project. This is sort of that income statement that I was talking about, in that you could customize this report to show sales versus expenses. So you could see where you're at financially on a project. This is not as detailed as there is a project accounting add-on feature that's in our xTuple exchange that goes into much greater detail in relating project and project activity to the general ledger. This doesn't do that. This basically just links orders to projects so you can see what the activity is related to the project, but it doesn't give you specific financial reports that you would see from the accounting module. You would have to use project accounting for that. Okay, so that's a nice handy view. So at this point, I think I've gone over most of the high level tools that are available in here. And I'm sure you guys will have a few questions at the end of the session. But now, let me double check and make sure there's no, okay. So now I'm going to move on to the web client for a minute because there is some differences. One thing I should point out, I'm using Safari here, or not Safari, Firefox. I should point out that I'm using two different databases here. The one I just showed you is a local database saved on my laptop. This is actually a sales database that the web client's pointing to, so the project data is slightly different. But typically, if you're using it in your own environment, then both clients would point to the same database. So don't get confused if the project data looks different. I'm going to go back one here. So when you log into the web client, this is kind of the home screen that you see. There's a project menu over here. Here's the Greenleaf project. This has a nice, like, clean summary of status, expenses, hours, due date. Like I said, it looks different than the project I just showed you because it's coming from another database. The dates are all different. If I select the project, and remember with the web client, you would be looking at this feasibly on an iPad or smartphone or some sort of mobile device, and you're using your finger to navigate. I'm doing this on a laptop, so I'm using a mouse to navigate through here. You'll see that the project overview fields are quite similar. The dates, the status, the priority, notes. This would be, in my mind, this would be really handy if you're sitting in a project meeting and everybody's sitting there with an iPad, because this gives you a nice high-level overview of the tasks, a summary. You can also, if I'm going to skip workflow for a second and come back to that, comments, documents. What's not in here that you would find in the desktop is the orders, the relationships to the orders that I showed you earlier. However, there is a nice feature in the mobile client throughout the mobile client application, but also it's included in the project module, which is the notion of workflow. So our tasks right now are flat and we don't enforce dependencies like in a more advanced project management tool. But in a workflow, you can customize activities that need to happen in a sequence, and it will reinforce the sequence of events. So here's two workflow activities that I set up here. And another way to think of these could be, when I was trying to figure out how I would describe this, you could consider these milestones. So you can't move on from milestone 1 to milestone 2 until milestone 1 is complete. So in this example, what I did was I put in approve the project charter as a workflow activity that needs to happen before the engineering sign-off. And these workflow activities are assigned to people, and they could review if you're the project manager and you're trying to figure out where some of these, where we're at with these activities, you could check out the workflow and it would identify what's been completed and what's next. So they signed off the project charter. Now we're waiting on engineering sign off. You can create as many workflow activities as you wanted to, and they could all be in this reinforced sequence of events, if that makes sense. So actually, let me add another one. Let's say after engineering sign off, we're going to do marketing kickoff or something. Just making something up here. All right, so in your project, the first thing that needs to happen is the charter needs to get signed off. Then the engineering needs to get signed off. Let's say normal. So once I sign off on the engineering, notice the state is pending. I'm going to say we completed this sign off today. It changes the sign off to completed, and then it puts marketing in a pending status. Actually, it should have put it in process. That didn't work as well as I had hoped. But you could also manually go in here and say that this is started. So that's another way to work on managing some of the project dependencies. It's one tool you could use for that. Okay, so that's pretty much the bulk of the material that I was planning to go over today. Are there questions? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm checking the chat now.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any questions pop up. Not at the moment. I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions at all? Raise your hands if you have a question. And go ahead and put it in the chat. Okay, Janet has a question. Janet, go ahead and type it out in, let's see here. Let me see if I can unmute you. All right, Janet's unmuted. Go ahead, Janet.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
When you were talking about the mobile app, and you referenced that you were using, I think Firefox, is it good? Can you use the mobile client in any? I mean, is Mozilla Firefox, i.e. Chrome, is one or two better than the others, or one we should stay away from when we're making recommendations for this?
No, you should be able to run the mobile app in any internet platform.
Okay.
Yeah, I can run it Firefox. We tested it, and I mean sometimes we'll run into bugs while we're releasing stuff in the different ones, but they should operate seamlessly in all.
Okay, good.
Of the
all right,
different
thanks.
internet. Yeah.
All right, so Brian has a question, then Mitch will get to you. Hold on one second, let me unmute you here. Okay, Brian, go ahead.
Oh, I was just curious, as you go through, is there any support for templates? In other words, I'm using this to track like in a job shop, and 90% of the time it's only minor tweaks to the task. So, you know, if I can recreate a new project and have, you know, a default set of tasks come up, it would save quite a bit of time.
Yeah, we did add a feature, so I just jumped to the list view. That's a really good question. I'm glad you brought it up. You can copy a project now. For a while, we didn't have that ability in the earlier versions of the application, but now you can basically create a project template if your tasks are the same, you know, fundamentally the same for every project, and just copy it.
Oh, okay. That's looks good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a nice feature that got added.
Now, the other thing I had, you know, I'll just kind of jump in with the second one here real quick, just for my own edification. You said you were on Enterprise, but then you made reference to the additional project accounting in
Yeah.
Exchange. Is Enterprise does not have that accounting in it?
Let me think for a second. Let me double. That's a good question. Let's see. Let's double check that. It
Okay.
should say Joe. Well, I'm looking
Yes.
this up. Do you know off the top of your head?
I do not, unfortunately, know.
Okay. Let's check the comparison chart. So here, if you go to xtuple.com comparison, this shows you all the features that are available in each edition. Project accounting. Oh, you're right, Brian.
Okay.
It is included.
Gotcha.
It is included in the enterprise. That was a good question. I'm glad you asked.
Well,
Okay.
you caused me a little bit of grief here for just a second. Uh-oh, forgot to put something on a proposal.
Oh, sorry about that.
Not a problem.
All right, thanks, Brian. We're gonna go ahead and mute you, and we'll go to Mitch here in just one sec. Okay, Mitch, go ahead. Are you there? He might not have his. He might have answered his question. He might not have his mic on. Mitch, go ahead and go to your settings and see if your mic is turned on, or you can type it in chat, and I can relay it. Probably give him just a sec here. Well, Mitch, go ahead and raise your hand if you still have the same question, and I'll go ahead and mute you here.
Maybe could have been one of the questions that somebody already asked.
Yeah, it might have been that. Does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead and raise your hand if you do. No, that seems to be about it.
All right. Well, it's a pretty basic tool, but it definitely adds a lot of value in my mind when you're trying to manage all this project detail. So I hope that you'll consider playing around with it, tracking a project with it, seeing how you like it, and of course, if you have any suggestions for additional functionality or features that you would like to see, you can file incidents or post comments on our community website, and we're always open to suggestions.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for today. Thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it. Everybody, we've been recording today's session, and we'll be putting that up soon. So if you have any further questions, feel free to email us here at xTuple. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.